For those who don't know, THORChain is the first ever decentralized exchange to swap real Bitcoin. And now you can use every Bitcoin wallet in the world and you don't have to connect it to a website. Shout out to Memoless. It's the same thing with Ethereum, XRP, BNB, Tron, Doge, and more. Eventually, you'll be able to swap any token from any wallet to any token. It's a beautiful thing. THORChain is turning into a full layer one liquidity engine where apps can be built on top of it. The new app layer, Ruggira, which we're going to be talking about Saturday, you guys. So you got to make sure you see that space Saturday. Do not miss it. The new app layer unlocks lending, perps, Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, token launchpad, NFTs, prediction markets, and much more. We're just getting scratching the surface there. THORChain isn't just a decentralized exchange, it's becoming the protocol of pure uncensorable liquidity. Swapping on THORChain is permissionless, it is no KYC. Anyone in the world can use it. It is also very easy to do. To swap on THORChain, go to thorchain.org and click on swap. One more time, thorchain.org, click on swap. New features and functionality are being rolled out and they'll be rolled over the next few months. If you encourage any problems on the site, it's kind of in beta right now. It's doing really well. There is an email link on the bottom right of the screen. Click that and please submit any problems or quirks you may see or any suggestions at all. Thanks, guys. THORChain's token is called RUNE. That's spelled RUNE. You do not need to buy or hold RUNE to place a swap on THORChain, but the fees that are deducted from your swap are used to buy RUNE. And this is the RUNE that is the yield that goes to liquidity pools and nodes. There are no block rewards on THORChain. 100% of the yield is real. THORChain is currently deflationary with 5% of revenue being burned. And we had some huge burns. I think we had like 15, 16,000 RUNE burned in one day. Insane. If you hold RUNE on a centralized exchange, you need to withdraw that into self-custody because those tokens are being used to short sell RUNE and drive the price down. And once in self-custody, you should look into bonding your RUNE to a node to earn some yield and help secure the network. A really great site is runebond.com. It's super easy. All you have to do is find a node, request a whitelist, and then you can bond your RUNE once you are approved. This is another time where we're going to have a community shout out. Of course, you can bond your RUNE, but also if you are somebody who has some technical skill, please reach out. We want new node operators. We have wonderful people like RuneTard and others who are educating people and getting them trained up on how to be node operators. We will go out of our way to help you. There's a lot of tooling out there. Let's increase the decentralization of the network. THORChain is one of the only protocols I've ever seen where people training their competition is actually healthy for that person. So please, guys, if you know anybody or if you're interested, step up. We will do anything we can to help you. THORChain has another token called TCY. This token is kind of like a preferred stock where 10% of the protocol's revenue goes to these token holders. If you deposited crypto into savers or took out a loan on THORChain, make sure to claim your TCY token so you can start collecting this yield. And anybody can buy the TCY token on thorchain.org as well. There's a THORChain community Discord and Telegram. You can join, learn all about THORChain, and make lots of friends. To find the links, go to @Thor Community. That's @THOR Community account on X. Guys, these spaces are aimed at anyone in the THORChain journey, whether you're an OG or newbie. We will cater to you. There will always be something here for you to learn about. Let's get this party started, guys. My name is Denny. I have another account, Patriot Sounds. And I just want to say this is the last Thursday of 2025. It has been an absolutely wild year. I am so blessed to be part of this community and to have experienced this year with you. It's been a very formative year for THORChain, formative year for me personally. I feel like I have grown. I feel like I am better. It's been challenging, but we, I think, have navigated the storm expertly. And I am so excited to see what is going to be coming next year. So again, thank you all. It's an absolute pleasure doing these things with you. And I hope during this holiday season, whether it's Christmas or any other holiday, enjoy the time with your families, enjoy the blessings, because, we are all doing this here for them, right? We're trying to make the world a better place. And I really feel like we're going to do that. With that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Kenton. How you doing, Kenton?
Yeah, good. Thanks, man. I don't feel like I've grown this year. I feel like been spinning my wheels. So I'm looking forward to next year.
Fair enough.
Yeah, appreciate your sentiments. So that's great, man. And yeah, last space for the year. I don't know where should I maybe give a little quick update, kind of what I've been doing with the front end.
Everyone loves hearing those, buddy. Go ahead.
So yeah, we're still working on migrating the front end to the THORChain server. And so until that's done, we can't push any updates through. Um, but the next updates we're working on are limit orders, um, and the streaming swap settings. And so, hopefully, yeah, it's a matter of weeks. But like you guys know with Christmas and everything, so like North America and the West, everything kind of shuts down over these next 2 weeks, and then the guys in Kyrgyzstan, they told me it's kind of like the first 2 weeks of January that things kind of shut down there, kind of slow down. So we could be in a bit of a lull for the next 4 weeks because of holidays in various countries. But yeah, we're just we're still moving forward, still working. After those updates go through, then the next thing on the list will be like all the THORChain features, like bonding your rune and LPing and stuff like that, message deposit, stuff like that. Um, the Dex aggregator. So yeah, Treasury told me this their decision to only do THORChain and Maya roots and nothing else. Um, so yeah, it's not my call. That's what they want to do. And the reasoning, the best reasoning I can give you is that they don't want to like they think it's like I don't want to speak for anyone, but these are what I've been told. Like the criticisms is that it's like we're sending volume to a competitor. What if a trade goes bad? Like something happens, a trade going somewhere else, and there's an issue. How do we support that? Which I actually do feel like that is probably the one main legitimate criticism of it. Um, and then also just not to rock the boat with the other partners, the other integrators we have. So um but who knows? It's if I'm not gonna. I made my case, right? I said what I think, but I'm not gonna like rock the boat on this. Like it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. But if the community is, I'm not gonna. This isn't reverse psychology to try and whip you guys up, but like if enough people want to get involved and like want to try and change it, I mean, maybe it can. Like it's not. I don't think anything's set in stone. Um, what I disagree with is the idea of trying to get the nodes involved and like running a vote or anything like that. I'm against that. I will die on this hill to not get the nodes involved with the front end, right? Because the protocol has to be separate from the front end, right? And if we give any kind of indication that the nodes do control or influence the front end, then we start muddying the waters, right? We got to keep the two. The two are separate, and so the nodes should have no say over the front end, and the front end should have no say over the protocol. Just like the treasury has no say over the protocol, and the nodes have no say over the treasury, right? And that keeps it separate. Um, so. But if people if the community feels strongly about it and whatnot, maybe they can sway, the Treasury's decision, right? Or maybe, alleviate the critics' concerns. Um, but I mean, it's not like we had much volume on it anyway, So, and with intents coming out and also that, it might not just be a moot point, right? And that was the other part of it, with intents coming out on THORChain, like, are we really going to need the Dex aggregator when we can use our own intents version and stuff for long tail assets? So maybe in 6 months, it's not necessary anyway, right? So that's why I'm like, it's not really. I don't think this is a hill for anyone to die on. Um, um, so that's that with the aggregator. Then the marketing front. Yeah, moving forward, I'm seeing some mock-ups now of the new website. It's looking pretty good. Um, yeah, just little things. Like I don't know if you guys saw the posts on the THORChain Twitter about the CoinGecko updates. I've been trying to update the info on CoinGecko, which is fun, air quotes fun. It's been a lot of back and forth, and they need proof and links and documentation, all this kind of stuff. So it's just been doing that. And yeah, but nothing. Just trying to think. I thought I had something about the marketing. Nothing really is substantial. Just like little things we're working on here and there, trying to move things forward. Um, yeah, maybe we'll stop there.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on what you were just saying. Like, I agree with what you were just saying about like in 6 months maybe the stuff doesn't even really like matter that much. Do you know what I mean? Because like as you said, Intense can give us long tail assets. We got like Solana coming out probably in January, I think, which is like one source of volume that like Near has that we don't. And Zcash will be fast following as well. So like I think a lot of the trades that we get. That we don't get because Near has them post, Intense, post Solana, post Zcash. Like the volume would be so small that I'm not even sure it's worth the technical engineering to even maintain that code, and then also deal with the headaches when something goes wrong. And like as you mentioned earlier, I think it's a kind of the whole conversation. I think is basically moot in 6 months, likely. You know, um, yeah. And we want to keep things as like that. I've always envisioned that the swap UI to be like very simple, very clean, very easy to use. Not a lot of like gizmos or gadgets or like options or you know, like keep it as dumb simple as possible. It's like I actually kind of want to see us do something similar to what like Coinbase does or like Kraken, one of these guys, Binance, where you have like a simple UI that you can log into the site and you have like a simple little swapping thing, that's real quick and easy. A dullard could use it. And then you have like a pro interface, which is like where you have like, charts and like trading view and like, limit orders and, more complicated, more powerful things for like more um, capable like traders in the market. So like, I'd love to see you guys at some point. This is just my suggestion. I'm not telling you to do anything. It's just my floating ideas out there. But I would love to see you guys at some point build like, trade.thorchain.org instead of swap.thorchain.org. And trade is just like a more like professional interface with like more capable tools and that kind of thing. I think that would be very fascinating.
Well, that actually is exactly what we've been talking about. Like, 'cause especially with the all the smart contract app layer features.
Yep.
Um, like we want to have all that on the Thorchain front end, and that would be like the pro version.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And yeah, so I totally agree with you, Chad. Like have like a basic, simple, easy to use front end, and then if you want to get more complicated, you go to the pro version. So yeah, we are definitely talking about that.
Yep.
The okay, so then what do you think about the features for bonding and LPing? Should that be included in the basic version or in the pro version?
I mean, for me, that stuff is like that stuff is like a separate UI. That's how I view it, right? Like you can have like lp.thorchain.org and you have swap.thorchain.org and you have 'cause you're keeping it like instead of having one big giant UI that you have like, which is basically what ThorSwap more or less is, right? You just kind of having it more like centered on the action you're trying to take. This is how I would do it. Not that I'm an expert or know all things. Um, but like I would say like bonding is probably okay. Is probably okay. Like I've actually been thinking about bonding a lot, and I've been thinking about like that uh, that like we should have like actually a command line tool for operators to have to be able to manage their node to like bond, unbond, leave, maintenance mode, mate mode, rebond, which is like moving your bond from one node to another node, like and have something like that's centered around just that management of like your node. But I wouldn't like I was initially not gonna make it into a UI thing just because I don't want to have something that manages nodes be a public website that like theoretically could capture like IP addresses and maybe dox operators, which we don't want to dox, or be liable as as a project or as a decentralized group of people to be like collecting information about people's IP addresses or whatever. Like this IP address is associated with this particular node or whatever. Like that would be kind of a bad thing, which is why it's better to do it like as a command line tool or a desktop tool. Either one of those two things would work. I lean command line because you're already using the command line to manage nodes. You're already familiar with it. It's easier to install across many different operating systems, so forth and so on. But I think for right now, like I would just keep like very simple, separate UIs to, and then if you want, you can create like links to the other UIs if you want to. But that's how I would do it.
I actually like that, man. I mean, to be honest, I didn't even think about it like that. I actually really like that idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm already making notes and I'll bring it up. And like, I definitely appreciate your sentiment about collecting IP addresses with the nodes and whatnot. But just because we have like a bond.thorchain.org with all the features for node operator, I mean, doesn't mean they have to use it, right? Some people can use it, some don't have to, right? That's
Yeah,
just
that's true. Like we're not forcing you to use it, of
yeah.
course.
Just,
I hadn't considered like until just now of of bond providers, like people who don't run nodes, but they provide bond. That would probably require like a web UI because those people are you can presume that those people are non-technical savvy, you know, and they don't know how to use command line, of course, and blah 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 and whatever. And so for those, you'd want to have like a probably a UI or at least something that's downloadable, like a downloadable desktop app or something like this. If you want to get totally paranoid about it, you know. But like we should have like basic tooling. Like we've kind of relied on THORSwap for a long time, and they've done a great job. Like I'm not even dissing them in the slightest. But it's like but that the management UI for THORSwap hasn't been updated in quite a while. With all like the newer features of managing nodes, and I don't mean that as some sort of criticism towards them at all. I haven't even bothered to reach out to them and ask them to update it, um, but like it makes sense that we kind of own our full stack a little bit more so that we can ensure like basic functionality, basic usage, and have like control our own kind of destiny to some regard.
I totally agree. And like, I mean, Asgard X is great for desktop,
Yeah, that's
right?
great.
Like,
Yeah,
and but yeah,
and
that's that.
Familiar Cow just launched his own like Rune Tools desktop app recently.
Yeah, and like, but yeah, so that's what I'm thinking with the THORChain.org. It's just another place for people to use. Right? It doesn't have to be the only place.
Yeah,
Um,
of
so
course.
yeah,
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Oh, one more thing, like, when we're talking about the more, like, pro UI for trading, like, are you thinking that it only works with, like, secured assets? Like, that's how I think about it. Like, you have more of a traditional, like, sex experience where you first deposit money, you deposit Bitcoin, you deposit, USDC or whatever, and then you get, which is effectively a wrapped asset, which is what they do. This is what a secured asset effectively is, a wrapped asset in effect. And then from there you can trade, and it's a good experience because the trading is fast, the trading is cheap. There's not like a huge gas fees or like 10-minute wait times for Bitcoin transactions. You can just like trade back and forth as fast as you want. It just gives you a better experience. Are you thinking the same thing as I was?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the idea.
That's awesome. Love it. Love it.
The only
Fantastic.
thing that like, since we're chatting about this, is like with limit orders, we can have limit orders on L1 assets, right? You don't need
Yes.
secured assets.
Right.
So, so the right now, the devs, the ensemble guys, they're gonna build the limit orders into the current UI. And
Okay.
so I'm not sure how that's gonna like if that's gonna complicate things, make it more messy, what it's gonna look like. But that would be the only one that kind of lives between the basic version and the pro version. How do we handle limit orders on L1s? Because you can do limit orders on secured assets, right?
Yes, correct.
So how are we going to differentiate between L1 assets and secured assets and like guide the user?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like on the one hand, you have these two groups or two classes of users. One is like an L1 kind of like hobby swapper who's maybe not the most savvy, just kind of buying or selling a little bit here and there. And then the other one, you have like somebody who's an actual trader who day trades or does price charting and Fibonacci, whatever the hell, and whatever that stuff is. But then you had the problem is that, as you're kind of alluding to, is that like the limit order on THORChains, like the base layer, supports secured assets, and also like layer one assets. And so where does that layer one limit order kind of like sit? Is it in the kind of the pro UI or more like the casual UI? It's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that question. Like I do feel like if you put it into the casual UI, it would just be overly complicated. you know? Um, I think it would just be another hurdle, like a mental hurdle that people have to jump through. Unless you have like a tab that's like basic mode and advanced mode of the basic UI. If that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like we might be just like overcomplicating it, you know?
Yeah. For me, when I approach things like this, I just start putting it together and just seeing how it looks. And I think the Ensemble guys have done a pretty good job of this, where they just start building it, and then they kind of show me this is what we got done so far. And then, I go back with my feedback, and we kind of go back and forth
Yeah.
until it starts to make sense.
Yep.
And then I think in that process, we'll find out. I'm like, man, it's just becoming too complicated, and we do have to do completely, start over again, or maybe we can iron it out so that it is simple to use. So I think it's just something we're just gonna have to uh, f- uh, fix on the fly, and see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah, it's possible that that limit swaps on THORChain's base layer for layer one assets is just like a rarely used feature because people are like arbs are not going to be using that. Arbs are going to be using secured assets or even trade assets. And pro traders are going to also be using secured assets because it just gives a better kind of UX. So maybe that's just the outcome, and I'm okay with that. That's perfectly fine by me. The feature still accomplishes what it was designed to accomplish. But it's kind of an interesting thing that like you think naturally that there would be like some interest in a layer one limit order, but maybe that's just not the case.
You're absolutely right. And like, if we start to find that it's just not being used on the basic front end, I'm like, maybe we can consider getting rid of it, and then
Yeah,
kind of forcing people to the pro version. And
yeah,
not where they actually do want to, they're gonna, pro order is probably gonna stack their bids, right? Have like 14 open orders outstanding type deal, and he wants a nice place to look at it. And um so yeah, well, yeah, that'll be another thing. We'll just see how it's being used, and that'll help guide us on the design too.
right, right.
I have a question from the community, and real quick, you guys, please, if you have any questions at all, go to the THORChain Telegram and please ask them. I'm also monitoring the Rajurin one as well, if you are on that side of the things. But remember, this is the last Thor space of the year, so please, if you have any questions, ask them now because we're going to be having a bit of a break with Chad here, or it could just be comments. This is more or less a well-wishing one because it's close to Christmas time or the holiday season, so if you want to tell Chad he has a sexy voice, or if you want to say Kenton looks young and has great hair despite the fact he's 83 years old, please do that. That'd be great. But the first question I have is from Artem, and this question's for you, Chad. He says,
Yeah.
"What are Chad's plans for THORChain next year? Does he have any plans what he will build after intense rapid swaps, limit orders? What else?"
Yeah. So I think there's the current kind of roadmap, which we have in, as you mentioned, intense. We have opt-in chain security so that we can like add more chains faster, help add more chains more faster, and be able to scale to a much larger quantity of chains in theory. There's limits swap, which is still kind of ongoing, getting like kind of tighten that up some. And then after that, it's rapid swap, which will also take some time to tighten up as well, because it's kind of a complicated thing. I don't think we've ever done that before to do like limit swaps with an AMM, like hybrid mixture. I think we're the first to do, at least the one I'm not aware. So that'd be pretty complicated to do. Post all that, I think there'll probably be a switch. I mean, there's other things too for before I get to the switch, but there's the intent to do it to do DKLS, to migrate our cryptography from GG20 to DKLS. We're still waiting on what's called identifiable aborts, which is currently not supported in the current DKLS like libraries. I'm not pushing hard for that just because I'm already busy working on all these other features, so it's not like a top kind of priority in my mind. We're still talking about batch outbound, so we can sign multiple Bitcoin transactions or multiple Ether transactions in a single signature, so to speak, and kind of have a faster throughput, which would be positive. There's a bunch of changes that I wanted to make around making the protocol faster in its trades. Rapid swaps being kind of the most obvious one we mentioned before, and what I've been working on lately is this like zero conf trading, where the trade that you execute, that you trade executes while it's in the mempool and before it gets onto the block, in the Bitcoin block. That just to speed up, it could, reduce the trade time by 10 minutes theoretically, and that kind of thing. Um, and then there's other things like, um, I wanted to get the infrastructure for the nodes so that you can specify multiple daemons and multiple providers of daemons, so you can run your own daemons locally, um, and or you could like connect to some sort of hosted version like Anchor, or Blockchair, or like one of these kind of characters, or even like Archeo, which is a decentralized version of that. So you could have like failover and like primary secondary failover. We call that in the industry, we call that master slave relationship. So that you have like more reliability. I'd love to see more improvements around like more like kind of like quality of life things for the nodes, to be able to more easily track like how many slashes you're getting and why you're getting your slashes and what the problems are. So to make it easier to track down, like if there's a problem in your cluster, to make it more obvious and just easier to find out where that problem is, and what to do about it and so forth and so on. And then after that, there's going to be like a switch to like a lot of like what's called technical debt, which is really basically switching to like focusing on reliability, shoring up some tools, refactoring code, pulling out some things, pulling out some code we haven't used in a long time that's like kind of dead, like Ragnarok, for example. We might partially remove that, maybe, for example. And there's a lot of like changes with that. And then I also want to build like, I'm interested in engaging more in the AI space and applying it to THORChain's infrastructure, THORChain's code, THORChain's community. So I'm interested in building these kind of AIs that are, operating as like partial developers to assist us in the process, so they can help us not only like build new things, but find bugs and help solve them. I want the AI to be monitoring the protocol and basically real time, looking at logs, looking at metrics, looking at data, looking for anomalies, something that's weird, notifying when the AI sees something odd or weird, and then kind of maybe taking action to help mitigate or possibly or whatever that I'm kind of interested in doing. I kind of want to build one of those LLMs to be pulled into our Discord, so that you can like talk to like kind of like a chat GBT kind of like thing within our Discord, and you can have conversations and ask questions and about the protocol, or about how much rune this Thor address has, or the volume of the past 3 months, or something like that. Like just building more stuff like this for the kind of community as a whole. There's a lot of things I'm interested in kind of expanding out into. Um, yeah, is that enough things for you?
For me, it is. Yeah, Kenton, did you have anything you want to add to that, Kenton?
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna give you more work to do, Chad. Um, just a question. You mentioned getting rid of Ragnarok. Why get rid of it? Isn't it still good to have it in case we want to get rid of a pool?
So Ragnarok was never originally, it was not designed for getting rid of a pool. It's not actually really designed for that at all. Although maybe we made some changes to it a couple of years ago that I'm just forgetting now. But originally, it was designed to deal with the scenario where, like, say there was like a mass exodus of the Thorchain protocol, like for whatever reason something's happening, and all the validators are like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here," and they're all exiting. And it was designed that like it only actually executes when you get down to like 4 nodes remaining. Like today we're at like 100 and something, whatever the number is. But like if it got down to like something where you're actually starting to lose like, Byzantine fault tolerance, then like that's a problem. And so at that point, the network kind of detects that, and then it just starts like ejecting all of its funds, all the bonds, all the LPs, everything just kind of goes through a process of just ejecting everything and giving everybody back like all of their money, more or less, and so that it can like gracefully shut down and like self destruct in a sense. We built it there like just as morally like I guess mostly as like a theoretical outcome that we want to be prepared for, I guess. And we only used it once when we um, triggered it. Excuse me. We triggered it intentionally for a single chain chaos net a long time ago, and it worked pretty well. It was a little bit slower than we thought it was going to be. There's a few bugs to patch when that happened, but we haven't used it since. And it's just a bunch of code just sitting there and like hasn't really been executed or been run in a long time. There isn't an argument you can make, and a good one at that one, as you're kind of doing now. Um, that I think that if we want to reject a certain pool, or which is not really a Ragnarok necessarily, that's partial Ragnarok, but if you want to reject a certain chain, right? Like if we're going to get to a place where the security of each individual chain is going to be like an opt-in system rather than like a global, like all validators validate all chains, then that you run into a scenario where the idea like Ragnaroking an individual chain and all of its pools becomes a lot more likely, right? A lot more, a higher probability of that actually happening, because of there's not a lot of support for this particular chain, and it dies out because that chain's not doing well, or just it literally dies. Like we've seen a bunch of chains die in the last 12 months effectively. So we might keep it for that particular purpose. But there's like a whole bunch of other code too that we could like rip out that we don't even need to have anymore, and just to simplify things and clean things up and kind of like do some house cleaning, so to speak.
I
Okay,
asked.
sorry, my bad. I got confused. I forgot it was for the whole network. I thought it was for like
Yep.
an individual pool. Because like when Luna and UST blew up, that didn't we technically Ragnarok those that chain
Yeah,
with
I
pools?
guess in some sense we did. I don't recall. Like I think we had to build. Like at that time, we didn't have Ragnarok on a per pool basis, and we had to build an entire new like addition to Ragnarok to allow you to Ragnarok a specific pool or a specific chain. And it's been a few years since then, so I don't quite remember off the top of my head what that implementation looks like. But yes, we expanded it to support a specific pool like later on. But the initial intention was really supposed to be global. And obviously, like Terra was like a rare instance. So then it becomes the conversation of like having the technical capability and like putting all the engineering effort to support Ragnaroking a pool versus doing it like somewhat manually. Like what is the actual like make sense? Like is there enough ROI there to spend the engineering time to build and maintain and test and blah 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 the autonomous system versus like a more manual one? I don't know. You could argue in both directions. There's probably good arguments in both directions to be fair. But maybe if we're heading towards a place where we're going from like, however many chains we have now to, 30 chains or something like this, then the statistical likelihood of us, Ragnaroking a chain or a pool probably goes up with each chain that we add, you know?
Yeah. And I keep thinking the X rune pool, it really bugs me because it's like I'm kind of a bit of a neat freak. I'm pretty tidy. So I'm always, I keep a clean house type thing. So like I feel like that's a dead project and it's got rune attached to it. And like in my mind, like
Yeah.
should we get rid of that pool and just eject it? And it's just kind of like, it's just kind of
Yeah,
um
maybe.
and I wonder maybe I'm changing the subject a little bit now. I guess what are your thoughts on like kind of arbitrarily, axing pools like that we just don't feel are in THORChain's interest? Do you think that
I mean,
yeah.
I don't have a strong intention to do things like that because I don't want to come down on the protocol as some sort of like manager of some kind. What should happen, like in like on paper, in theory, what should happen is that when you have an asset there's like a dead asset, and let's take X rune as an example. It's got like a handful of LPs, whatever. The X rune, the value of the X rune itself should decrease over time because it's a dead product. People are selling it, to something that's not dying, and so that the quantity of rune in the pool would just decrease like over time, right? And then there are like rules about in the protocol that we call a pool cycle, where if the quantity of rune in a pool drops below a certain quantity, it goes from like an active status to like a standby status or whatever it's called. And then it starts like charging if your pool's in like a standby status, it starts like charging the LPs a little bit of extra like rune per churn effectively. I don't know how much it is at the top of my head. It's been a long time since I've looked at that code. but it's just like kind of charging like a fee for the security of it because it's not actually being used for trading because trading's not allowed. It's in standby status, not active status. So it starts to charge the pool money for that, and then once it gets so small that the value of the pool goes down and down and down because it's like every 3 days it's charging some sort of fee on that pool. And then at some point it gets like to some other number where the amount of rune is like under 100 rune, or I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but like something like this. Then it just like abandons it, right? If the pool's only got 100 rune in it, then like fuck it and just like abandon the pool entirely. So there are like mechanisms in place to actually remove these things on its own. I don't know how deep that pool is. I don't know if you know off the top of your head how deep the X rune pool is, but I
I
presume it's not that deep.
I actually just went to go look and find it. I don't. Maybe it's not active. I'm not seeing it on THORChain.net. So maybe it's already gone into standby.
That's
Um,
possible. It's
yeah.
possible.
But oh wait, there it is. There's 102,000. It's actually,
Rune?
yeah, $102,000. So there's
Wow. A lot more than I would have
100
thought.
181,000 rune. Yeah, it is. It's actually, it's like in the middle of the pack. Um,
Yeah, which is interesting. So like
yeah.
the people who are LPing in that pool right now, they are LPing in a pool that I presume has near zero volume, like trade volume, right? It's making no money. It's not a good allocation or an efficient allocation of their capital. They'd be better off and like to like sell the remove the LP position, sell their X rune for rune or Bitcoin or or even a fucking stable coin for Christ's sake. Um, and kind of carry on. But the free market is effectively going to decide whether that pool should stay or not, just because the act of LPing is not like necessarily like a free thing, and you're locking up capital and you're taking a long position, on both assets, both Rune and the X Rune. So there should be a natural thing to happen, but that's what it is on paper. In practicality, people forget. People like LP into some pool and they forgot they ever even did it, and and it just kind of stayed there basically forever. You know,
Yeah. Okay. But
what's
basically,
what?
to summarize what you said earlier, it kind of takes care of itself. If the pool really is
Yeah,
dead, will just shrink and eventually go away on its own.
I mean, we could be a little bit more aggressive about it. Like for example, if the pool's daily volume is below something really small, like I don't know, $1,000. I'm making up numbers here, but some small number, then we can charge some sort of fee to the pool you know, for just not producing enough value for the protocol to make it worthwhile to maintain it. Because like every time we churn, we have to churn that X room, right? And that costs some gas, but you're not even producing much in fees in that pool. So uh, are we spending more on fees than we are in and like and gas, right? And so we could be a bit more aggressive on that, as a little bit, and just say, hey, we're going to require that this pool makes enough money to pay for the gas that it takes to churn each time we churn. So if it doesn't do that, then we'll just deduct some rune from the pool, autonomously, and then put it into the reserve to pay for the gas, and that will just like kind of over time chip away at that pool, you know?
I think it makes me a little because I think with Kenton, I really like you asked this question, Kenton, because if you look at THORChain.net, you got to think of someone who comes into our ecosystem for the very first time. There's no idea. They just know THORChain's awesome. It's 2026, let's say. Rujira's going awesome. The front end's going awesome. We're kicking butt. I feel like that might be a very likely way for people to get confused because if you look at the pools on THORChain.net, it doesn't say, right? It just says, stablecoin, BCH, Ethereum, Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. They may look at Xrune and say, that's the assets I need to get in order to bond or whatever. So I'm wondering if it is worth. I mean, usually I would agree with your side, Chad. It's like just let the market do its thing. But because the name is so similar, I wonder if it's something that we should consider prioritizing on being a little proactive, like you said.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, from a dev perspective, like I care very very little about this. I mean, this is kind of like Kenton's like OCD a little bit, right? Not to offend Kenton, of course. of like just wanting things to be a little bit cleaner than they are. And from a dev perspective, like, we have a lot of things that's on our plates, and busy with a lot of things. And we don't have a very large dev team, like unlike most other projects. We have a very small team, and so we don't have that much in terms of resources. So we have to be efficient about how we apply those resources.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that makes
absolutely.
sense too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing was just like I'm thinking from like the marketing selling part of view. Like when you go type in rune,
Yeah,
pops up X rune. Be like, oh, what is this?
yeah, yeah,
No, this
yeah, yeah,
must be rune as well. Another cool rune token. I want to buy rune, and it's like then we have to explain it, and it's like an explanation you just don't want to go down, and so just avoid the conversation altogether. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like anybody can name anything they want. Like there's X rune and there's B rune and there's like Thor token, and all these things can be easily be confused with like you know real rune. And there even was like Bep2 rune back in the day, right? But any project can create a token that's called rune, or B rune, or A rune, or U rune, or whatever, moon rune, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still occasionally would have people come in and ask this year about BEP2 Road, and I'm like, "Oh my god, have you been in a cryo chamber? What is going on?"
Yeah, I mean that's been gone for years at this point. And we're probably going to see the same thing with TCY to some degree. You know what I mean? We're going to have people 5 years from now saying, "How do I get my TCY?" You know?
Yeah, that might.
Well, at
Do
least
you
they'll be able to get it, right? Like,
yeah.
their claim doesn't expire, right?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not aware of any kind of expiration on that. On the BEP2 room, we kind of had to expire to some degree, but this you can be a bit more flexible on.
Yeah, I mean, the Beacon Binance literally the chains ended, so I mean, really our fate was tied on that front.
Right,
Um,
right. Our hands were tied to an extent.
yes, sir. I have another question here. Um, Again for you, Chad, kind of a playful speculation one here.
Hmm.
How is the question is how is Rune, the token, being impacted by all of those things Chad mentioned for the future, including intents? Are there plans to improve the tokenomics, or will we live to see Rune climbing back up higher? Smiley face.
um, so this is an interesting question. So like generally speaking, I don't really comment much on price stuff. And there's a good reasons. There's a handful of reasons why I generally don't do that. But what I do talk about is like things we do or things we want to change with the protocol to improve its value proposition. And by improving its value proposition, you're improving the fundamentals. And in theory, like the price should move with the fundamentals. Like if the fundamentals get better, right, then the price should go up. And the fundamentals get worse, the price should go down, so forth and so on. But that's not always the case, right? Like 'cause sometimes, like I think, like even now, like the market just feels a bit bearish. There's not a lot of like interest, and paying attention to like what's going on, quote unquote, to not just THORChain, but just like projects in general. I feel like, except for like the primary ones, alt art don't get that much love these days. And so it's like part of me is just like I could do something amazing on THORChain right now. Theoretically, that would be incredible, and it may not have the effect on the price that I think it would. Like whereas in the past, that's like when we launched major features in the past, we would see the price like almost double within like 30 days or so. And historically speaking, I don't know if that would be the case today in today's kind of like macroeconomic situation, right? That said, like I don't really care, how the price is affected necessarily. Like what I care about is just like changing the fundamentals, and the price should hopefully follow suit in its own time, which may not be, today. It could be tomorrow or whatever. Um, I try to stay focused on like the fundamentals and the value proposition, and my thesis is as long as I do that, the price in theory should move with it. But if it doesn't, it's like, well, then there's nothing I can do to make the price move in any particular direction, because any action I take would have no effect. So the only choice I have is to focus on the things that I think would affect the price, like launching some new feature that improves swap performance and or speed or limit swaps or whatever else, you know, that would, I think, increase liquidity, increase volume, increase whatever. And there's other things outside of my purview, like what Kenton's doing in the marketing side, right? Like that, in theory, should have an effect on the price. Whether it actually does or not, that's a different thing, because sometimes like the macro is just not receptive to this stuff. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing you can really do in certain kind of economic scenarios. Whether that is the scenario now or not, I don't really know. I just stay focused, like whatever we can do to contribute to the value proposition of the protocol, and then marketing's doing what it's doing to kind of get the word out of what it is that we're actually doing, and why they should be excited about it, and why they should be interested, and why it's good for the why it's like a real product with real usage that actually does something for real people, rather than just like selling hopium all day. Like most projects in the space, they live on hopium, right? Like they don't really have a product that actually anybody really uses, but they think that it will in the future. Like Cardano is probably a good example of that. They've been talking for how many years now about how Africa is going to adopt, ADA, or XRP's been talking for years about how it's going to be adopted by the banks as a way of transferring between banks, and that's just like never meant. It's like it's just living on hopium, you know, and that's really not like Solana's probably the same thing. Like it says we can do 300,000 transactions per second, or whatever the hell the number is, but like nobody's really using it for anything other than like just pumping meme tokens, which is not much. Maybe one day that'll change and they'll get like stocks and bonds thrown on Solana. I don't know, like legitimate stocks and bonds, like the Nasdaq being run on it. Who the fuck knows? But like, I try not to live on hopium. I try to just like actually deliver real things that deliver real product, real value to real people. That's my thesis. I stay focused on that. What happens to the price after that fact? It should follow it in theory, but if it doesn't, that's just more of the macro rather than the micro, which means there's nothing I can do about the macro.
I can I add to that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I got lots to say. So like we're still in a bear market. Like 24 was just a bull trap. Like this year has been bad. And like when you're in a bear market in any industry, it doesn't matter what you do. Like your share price doesn't move, right? And that's kind of that's what a bear market is. Like nothing good is happening. It's all just bad. Um, so there's that. And then I always get frustrated when people talk about adjusting the tokenomics on Rune. Like, look, compare the tokenomics on Rune to every other crypto. Like, Rune has incredible tokenomics as is. This is one of the reasons why I pushed for years. I was pushing to get rid of block rewards, to try and position Rune, like the token and tokenomics, as being like top notch, top tier. Like we have zero inflation. It's now deflationary because of the burn. We have no more debt. All the tokens are fully distributed, right? There is no more token unlocks, right? There's no one going to dump on us. If they're going to dump, they're done. They're gone, right? So this, our circulating supply is as distributed as you're going to get. Um, like, and we make money. Like, if you look at the last, I just did this math yesterday. The last 12 months, trailing 12 months of revenue, I think it was about 28 million. Our THORChain's PE right now is 8. Like you go to any TradFi investment, whether it's like a convenience store, a t-shirt maker, a lemonade stand, whatever. If your business has a price to earnings of 8, that's a cheap valuation, right? In any industry. And so like right now with THORChain's problem is just like how much cheaper is it going to get, right? And when is the market going to recognize that? Um, and like what other cryptos are actually running like a genuine business? Like most of these projects are just you know uh, solutions looking for a problem, whereas THORChain actually solves a problem, and people are paying to use it. And the issue with THORChain isn't tokenomics, is that nobody knows about it, right? No one's using it. And so that's my job, what I've taken on to do for you guys, is to try and get everyone to know about it and start using it. And so like the funnel we're trying to build here is, we want to start with users, right? So that's why we got the front end going, working on redoing the website so that when we go to get new users, they come to the site. It makes sense. They like to use it and they like to trade on it, whatever. Um, and we can find a way to start growing our user base. Once we start growing our user base and getting volume, then we can go to investors and say, "Hey, look, all these great things about THORChain. It works. It's growing. Invest in THORChain." Because what investors want to see is blue sky. They want to see how big can this get, and then discount that to today, and whatever that delta is between their assumed projections versus the current price. That's their decision to invest or not. And if we can actually this is why I keep comparing THORChain to Binance and the volume of centralized exchanges. Like, the market we're going after is like 1,000 times bigger than what we currently have. And if we can communicate that to the investment community and show them how we're actually growing, how we're actually on a trajectory to reach that, it doesn't take it's very easy for anyone with half in a brain in the investment world to start connecting the dots and like, holy smokes, THORChain is incredibly undervalued. Um, so, but my position is if we try to go to the investment community now and we spend all this time and money on trying to get new investors now, but THORChain doesn't grow, then we're not delivering on the promise, right? And then those new investors they'll just leave after a year because, oh, THORChain's not growing, it's going sideways. So that's why I want to focus. I think we should focus our efforts on getting the users and the growth now, so that when those new investors come, we're in that growth stage. It's already happening, and I'm of the opinion it'll be easier to attract new users than new investors. Everybody wants to swap Bitcoin for Ethereum, for Tether, whatever, right? But not everybody wants to invest in something new. So it should be easier for us to get the new users, easier for us to grow, and that in turn will make it easier for us to get the new investors. Um, so that's like the big funnel I'm trying to build for us. And um, yeah, to bring it back to tokenomics, I don't think tokenomics are issue. It's just communication. We just got to get the story out, get people to know about it. Um, like you guys keep seeing, THORChain not showing up on these charts on these research platforms. So we're looking into that, to try to get THORChain integrated. And like they're expensive. Like they're quoting us like 30, 50, 100 grand, 150 grand, like, to get THORChain in. And so, we got to try and negotiate better pricing. We got to, pick and choose which ones we want to do and when. We are moving forward with Masari, so we'll get into their system so that when a research analyst is looking up a protocol or looking up protocols, like what are the top 10, top 20 protocols in revenue, um, blockchain will start showing up in the list of Masari. But we want to get in token terminal and Artemis and all the rest, right? So um, so it's coming. We want to do it. It's just feel like that's phase two, and the other thing is too, we focus on phase one to get new users, more volume, and that's more money for the marketing fund, and then we can better afford to pay to get into all these different research platforms. So we start showing up on the radar of analysts, because that's ultimately going to be the goal, right? For us with marketing, is we want THORChain to show up in people's search results that they've never heard of THORChain before, but now we're showing up in the results when they're looking for something to invest in or something to use to trade. So that's that's what I'm working on. That's our master plan. So I don't, yeah, bring it back to tokenomics. I don't think adjusting tokenomics is going to change anything because no one's watching, no one's paying attention, no one's going to know about it. Only us, us geeks on this space. No offense, everyone, but only we know about it, right? So if we don't have any vehicle to get the message out to the world, we can change the tokenomics a dozen times over, and it doesn't matter because no one's paying attention. So we got to start getting out of our echo chamber. I'm not saying we're in an echo chamber, but you guys know what I mean. We got to start getting the message out to the world, to the audience, so they can just see what THORChain is currently. Yeah, I think so. I think that's our problem. That's what I'm trying to solve.
Yeah, I don't even know what the like if I could make any changes to the token economics of Thorchain, I don't even know what it would be off the top of my head to improve it. It's already like as you said, like it's pretty freaking solid, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's
Yeah.
done. I
Like
think
I don't know what else you could do. Like we already got I mean, we have things in the token economics I don't even really agree with, like the burn, for example. I don't think that's actually good, you know? And I still would if I had things my way, I would still have the block emission. I think we did that just too early. If I had my say on this thing, but like but still, like I don't know what else we could do to make it even better than it already is.
I
Yeah,
agree, man. I think we're done. We're good. We gotta get the message out now and get
Yeah,
people to think about it and realize it. Because when they and that's what I'm convinced on. That's well, the next wave of money, the next $1 trillion coming into crypto are they're normies. They're generalists, right? And
yeah,
they're gonna view crypto from the Warren Buffett um way of investing. They're gonna where's the value? Where's the revenue? How does this business how is this has got to be a business? How does this work? I mean, THORChain has it in spades. Whereas all these other projects, even the big ones, like you mentioned XRP, like what they is it like $40 a day they have on
yeah,
XRP? Like, how do you justify whatever 80 billion market cap, whatever it is? Like, it's crazy.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
well said.
yeah.
I don't mean to derail the conversation, but I do have another question. Well said, both of
Mhm.
you, by the way. And this is a slightly embarrassing for me because it's to do with bonding your rune, but it's a little nuanced, and I just can't quite remember. So, either Chad or Kenton, if you know the answer to this, comes from a node operator. They said I should know this. Sadly, I don't. Does the rebond command allow you to move bond to another node with the same operator while both are churned in? I thought there was something about having nodes within the same operator had stuff like this, but I can't seem to find it in the docs. Could one of you guys comment on that?
Let me look it up real quick. I actually don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I couldn't remember either. And
You
I'm gonna
trying to rebond between two nodes that are currently active, right?
I will repeat. I'm going to repeat the question. Does rebond allow you to move bond to another node with the same operator while both are churned in? Is the question.
Uh, I'm gonna look on in the code real quick. 'Cause I actually don't know off
I
the top of my head.
don't know the answer. All I know is you can rebond within the same node.
Yeah,
My guess is probably not.
that's my guess
But
too. But yeah, I don't know. Very good
a second,
question. Very good question.
I think there's something. I'm not the one that actually built this feature, so I actually don't have all the um, on hand. But
I do have once you're done looking up, I actually bring it back to tokenomics. I do have an idea, question about it. But I'll wait till you're done looking it
you,
up, Chad.
you can't. I don't think you can do this while the node is active. Yeah, I think it has to be like in a standby status in order to rebond. So I think you have to do like a leave command to have your node leave the network, then you can rebond.
Would both nodes have to be out of the network then?
Probably not. I'm not quite 100% sure, but probably not. I think it's just the one you're rebonding from. Uh, sorry, it's a bunch of code to read through.
Wouldn't it make sense? You don't even have doesn't even matter if it's the same operator address. It should
Yeah,
as long as the idea is keeping the rune bonded in the network. Well, I guess a node could go. I wonder if it goes below threshold. I guess it would just get churned out. Um,
Yeah, my wheels are spinning on this one. I'm thinking about it.
I mean that whoever that person is, that they're welcome to like hit me up on the Discord so I can take more time and actually look through the code more carefully. but I don't think that you can just do that the way they're suggesting. Although to be honest, I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to. Like we could make a code change that would allow something like that, like moving bond between nodes of that are both active. That should be allowed in theory, just because you're not actually like removing bond, like rebonding out, like taking a bond from an active node and moving it to like a non-active node. That would be a faux pas because like all the security could just like leave the network in a heartbeat, and then you have a problem. Right. You don't want that. But rebonding from a non-active node to a active node, that should in theory be possible. I don't have any problem with that. Or rebonding from two active nodes, that should be allowed if it's not already.
Well, Cal from Leodex came up. Maybe he knows. He Go ahead if you want to add some context, Cal.
Yeah, I actually, great conversation. I actually don't know the answer to this, but I wanted to come up and say this is a great use case of the AI that Chad was talking about building. Having something where you could go to Discord and ask a question like this
Yeah.
so that he doesn't have to read the code.
Yeah, you can get like, get the AI to read the code. Like I literally want to build that at some point, So there'll be like some chat bot, some username, whatever in Discord, and it has access to all the code, it has access to all the documents, and you can kind of just engage in conversation. Obviously, there's always the chance of like hallucinating, as AIs tend to do, like LLMs tend to do these days. I'm sure that'll be like figured out in a couple of years.
Well,
But
I'm sorry, Chad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
The PFC is the node operator. It's public. They're doing it on THORChain. They said might be challenging as it would cross vaults potentially. And I just want to throw that in there.
Nah, so bond is not a part of vaults. Like vaults is about securing like exonerous assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatnot. The bond goes into a module within the network itself that is like a shared module a single module for all the bond of the entire network. So the vaults have no relevance to this, really. I think the only thing you have to be careful about is like you can't just rebond or move your bond from one node to a non-active node unless they're both non-active. You can't go from active to non-active. That would be probably the most important thing.
Good point. Kenton?
So I
Go
do have
ahead.
a question. Did Cal? Do you still have your hand up? Did you want to keep going? Or is that it?
No, sorry. I just literally wanted to add that I thought that was a great use case of what he was talking about.
Yeah, it
Thanks for
would be a
letting
good
me
use
up.
case. Yeah.
Okay, so I do have something about tokenomics, Chad. That just totally reminded me. So this is part of my OCD. So right now, the maximum supply is 500 million Rune, and
Uh-huh.
the current total supply is 425 million 74,000.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking, with the burn, probably in the next month, we're going to get below 425 million total supply. And I was thinking, well, would it make sense to change the max supply to 425 million and just because the only reason we had that there was to make room for the lending feature, which we don't have anymore. And if we lower from 500 million to 425, maybe just helps signal to the market that you know we can't create any more tokens, and maybe might actually help prevent any kind of infinite mint bug or something like that would only mint to 425 instead of 500. And maybe that's one way, just a little housekeeping, we can kind of tighten up the tokenomics, like when people
Yeah.
pick it up.
I mean, this actually doesn't change the token economics. This is more about like how we talk about it rather than how it actually is. So like you're saying 425, but the reason why you're saying 425 and not 500 is because I think there's like 74 million approximately in the reserve right now, and there's like a million that's been burned through the burn mechanism. So that's the 75 million that's missing from that 425 number.
No, that's
And so
included.
technically,
No, that's included, Chad.
oh, that's included.
Yeah, the circulating supply is 351. Then the reserve is whatever,
Oh, okay.
70 something. So then the total is 425.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I guess like the max supply is set to 500 million, and like all that really means, and this is like the only thing like from a coding perspective, all that really means is that if the supply were to somehow go to 500 million plus one, the network itself would like completely halt because it's like there's some problem, obviously, right? And it would just like stop everything and to give devs a moment to like figure out what the hell is going on before we just allow things to continue going on. Um, but like, there's nothing actually minting coins right now. There's like, how can you actually mint a coin right now? I guess derived assets can do that, but they're not even turned on, so that doesn't work. Um, the not even the emission would actually like mint more. It doesn't mint codes. It just moves it from the reserve to the kind of more like circulating supply. So there's no actual like that I can think of off the top of my head. Like, so maybe I could ask that, Discord AI the question just to see if there's any other spots in the code that I'm just not recalling off the top of my mind. But yeah, I don't think that would actually really change anything. Do you know what I mean? Other than just how we talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like just so that, like the metrics on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, when people are
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at it for the first time, they just everyone looks at um FDV, right? And
yeah, yeah,
so they
yeah,
see
yeah.
max supply, and okay, that's what I'm gonna look at. Max supply times the price, that's my
Right.
FDV. That's
Yeah,
kind of how I
yeah.
was looking at it.
I guess yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that would make sense to me. We could like set the number, and it's I don't know where that number is actually stored, other than like in this one instance of like setting up an alarm, that pulls the network. Like, it's funny because even like Bitcoin's max supply of 21 million, it's actually not 21 million. I think it's a very kind of it's a bit nuanced, but like the supply of Bitcoin will actually never hit with 21 million. That number is not even in the code base anywhere in that code base. The 21 million comes from a mathematical eventuality, and never actually gets to 21 million. It gets to 20 million 20.9 something, whatever the hell the actual number would be. And it never actually really gets to 21. But we talk about that, the supply of Bitcoin being 21 million, even though technically it'll never actually even hit it. It's kind of a funny thing.
Totally. That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, we would need to show the max supply on these platforms, and we can just show the total supply. Um, I'm not sure
Yeah,
if
I mean,
that way the culture
total
is.
total supply would make more sense than max supply, I
Yeah.
guess, And maybe there's like maybe what we need to do is just like create some sort of API endpoint, like the slash network, for example, and just like add the total supply number, which maybe it's already even in there. Again, another question we can ask this Discord AI bot. That's
I'm
actually
quite sure it's already there. There's already an API
yeah.
for that. Yeah.
There might already be, which is very well possible. Um, but yeah, yeah, no, I'd be open to something like that, of course. But especially if it's like, being presented on the market cap or CoinGecko or one of these characters, um, as a 500 million.
The node operator that asked the previous question, and by the way, welcome Boone to the space. I'm just going to follow up. This is more of a comment or request. PFC says, "Thank you. I'd love a more flexible rebond, or at minimum, changing the effective amount from say 900 to 99,000 to say 2 million to give most of the nodes some breathing space."
Uh, yeah. Um, so the max effective bond is not something. It's a mathematical kind of algo that determines this number by looking at the highest. I think it's the highest bonding node that is in the top the bottom two thirds. So whatever has the most bond of the bottom two thirds that's the max effective bond. And the reason why we kind of put it there is because we didn't want, you know, um, uh, to have too much bond in one single node. And the reason why that's important in our case is because, like in another case where you have like take Cosmos for example, like the Atom, Gaia chain, like they don't secure external assets, and the voting power is represented by the number of Atom tokens that you've bonded into your node. That represents like how much voting power you have. And that's all well and good for their design and their requirements. For us, obviously, we secure external assets, and we don't want to get to a place where we have like 6 vaults, and each in these vaults have like varying amounts of value in them. one's got 2 million, one's got 500,000, one's got 10 million in it. Because once you get into that place, it becomes really kind of complicated from a coding perspective to kind of maintain all that because okay, there's only one vault that actually can send out $1 million transaction and it becomes a hard thing to balance. And then you have to figure out like, okay, when you're accepting new funds into the network, which of the six vaults should it go into? Should it go into the small ones or the big ones? Or and how do we balance those things? And oftentimes the bigger vaults will probably just be called more frequently than the smaller ones in terms of like sending funds. So your TSS signing is not really being balanced correctly across all six chains, all six vaults. It's being kind of heavy on two and not so heavy on the other four or whatever. So there's a handful of reasons of why it is the way that it is. Um, that does change though. Like, if we were to go to DKLS, for example, and say we went from six Asgard vaults to a single Asgard vault, then at that point, it doesn't really matter so much. And you could actually just get rid of the max effective bond entirely, probably. Like, this is another example of something I would like to rip out of the code base and to kind of simplify things, as I was mentioning earlier in the conversation. It's just like kind of getting rid of some of these mechanisms that kind of like they made sense when we implemented them but if there's a situation we can do or something we can change, like going DKLS, for example, that makes it no longer required and it kind of simplifies our over design. As a node operator, maybe you prefer running, one node versus, six nodes or whatever it is because it's just cheaper from an infrastructure perspective to do it that way, which is nice. So it's cost savings, which is a positive thing. But then we have to think differently about like Mimir voting capabilities. Like the voting is done per node right now, not per rune bonded, so to speak. So we'd have to change that as well, so that if you were to condense all your six nodes that you have into one node, in a theoretical future where there's no max effective bond, that kind of forces you to split your rune across multiple nodes. Then we have to change how the voting works. So there's like downstream effects to all that. It's not as simple as it sounds. It's actually there's a lot of nuance to the economics to this. But I agree with the general sentiment. Like, I'd rather there not be a max effective bond, and we can get there, by making some changes to simplify things and make it easier and less complicated. That's probably a win for everybody.
Excellent. Kenton, did you have anything to add to that, or I'll move on to our new speaker?
No, go ahead, move on.
Well, perfect. Welcome, Boone. Happy December to you. Nice to have you up here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. Just two minor things. I guess the first for Chad is a moment ago you guys were talking about rebonding between any active node, and then Cal, I think, or somebody raised the point of like the different vaults, and you kind of said that wasn't a concern, but like that just struck me as funny. Like, let's say, if all the node operators of one vault all rebonded to a different vault, wouldn't there be no economic security of that one vault?
Yes. Sorry, you are correct. I was thinking differently about the question than how you just phrased it. You're right.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is we were just talking about like the supply, the rune supply, and but I've long thought that it would be nice to burn for mostly for the same reason Kenton just mentioned, the FTV numbers, but to burn most of the reserve and leave only like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 million or something like in there. I just wanted to kind of throw that into the mix.
Um, I don't know. It's to me like here the reserve it currently has no mechanism to like release those funds. That I can think. I mean, it technically has a few different ways, but they're like very small. Like we use the reserve to like pay for gas, for example. Um, but it's such a like minuscule amount. Like it's not going to bleed 50 million rune into the circulating supply, obviously. Um, so it's like to me like that 74 million rune that's in there now is like effectively not part of the circulating supply in effect. Like
Well,
that's
yeah,
that's,
I
that's
know
how I
that, and you
yeah
know that, but like anyone who's not familiar with THORChain wouldn't know that, right?
right right. Yeah, we could burn it. Sure. I mean, like it doesn't really matter because we can always, if we wanted that 74 million back next year, we could always mint it back in, right? Like it's not like a final. There's no finality to it. If we wanted to, obviously, burning is a lot easier to convince the community than minting. For some reason, the community doesn't likes burning, but doesn't like minting. But yes, you could totally do that. Sure.
Cool. That's all I had.
I can
Yep.
comment on that, Boone. I don't think I totally get what you're saying about that reduce the FDV, which in theory should increase the room price. If the FDV stays the same, that should increase the room price. But I don't think it would happen at all. Like it would take probably like a year or two for it to really be factored in by the market. So I don't think we'd have any immediate benefit in the rune price. And um, I understand, Chad, what you're saying about, if we, yeah, if we burn 60 million tokens, we can always just mint them again, right? But then like it just looks bad because if we don't respect our total supply and we're just kind of willy-nilly changing it all the time, then the message we send to the investment community is that they can't trust the numbers. And so they're gonna apply some kind of discount to the number, which means they're gonna factor in, put in a safety factor, right? Oh, these guys keep changing between 300 million supply to 400 million supply to 250 to 550, whatever. We're just gonna bake into our assumptions a million token supply just to have some buffer, right? So um, investors like to see stability. They like to see consistency. And if we're constantly changing the numbers all the time, it throws people off. So in my opinion, is better to better to keep the number as is and just let the burn can just slowly decrease it. Keep the reserve as is, at least for say several years. And because if we do find some use, something to do with it, then okay, our numbers are still intact. Like, yeah, we're going to increase the circulating supply, but this is always right. It was always part of the FDB, so we're not changing the goalposts. Um, and um, and maybe there is some use for that. Maybe we do need to start doing block rewards again for some reason. Whatever. I've always thought maybe the reserve could be used like an insurance fund. If there's any kind of exploit or hack or something like that, we could use it to make users
Yep.
whole. Um, or maybe we really don't need it. And after several years, we realize, man, we really nailed this. We got like this is awesome, and we can honestly burn the reserve without needing to go back. But I feel like if we start, I feel like it's really easy to burn the tokens, but it'd be really hard to remint them with a straight face without losing investor confidence.
Yeah.
Because this is one thing with crypto. Like I get this a lot from normies, you guys, when trying to sell THORChain. What's the token supply? What's the inflation, right? Because the Bitcoin has built this whole meme around 21 million. It can't be changed. It is fixed, right? And so people coming into crypto, they have this idea that it's a fixed token, right? They don't want inflation, right? They're trying to leave TradFi. In the inflation from TradFi, they want a fixed asset. And so um, they just have it in their minds that if I'm investing in crypto, I want a token that isn't inflating, that has a fixed supply, right? Forget the whole store value and we're an exchange, different business. It doesn't matter, right? In their mind, crypto is all the same. So there's definitely a lot of value from the investment community in having like a very strict token supply and not being you know liberal with it. So yeah, I think we should guard that and be very careful with, if we're gonna burn the reserve, we better make damn sure we're never gonna need it again. And I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to have it than not, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. Like you said, the Caribbean exploit. Maybe the treasury is running low on funds and needs more funds to keep the devs deving. Um, or maybe like this is another kind of crazy thing. Like, what if THORChain wanted to acquire another protocol, right? And needed a huge influx of capital to acquire that other protocol or whatever. Like you never know what it is. It's just better to have it on hand than not.
Okay, and I mean those are all valid. I mean, first of all, again, I wasn't suggesting that as an impact on price. The way I think about it is, since it's non-circulating, it has no impact on price. Like if it exists or if you burn it, I don't think there would be an impact on price personally, other than optics. Is like, first of all, but yeah, and for that same reason, I don't consider it to have any value. You know, people say, "Oh, there's 74 million rune there," and that's like, you know, like let's call it $40 million right now. But it's not 40, it's $0, right? Like because it's not circulating, it doesn't have any value. And if it were to enter circulation, all it's doing is taking value from rune holders and diluting it.
Right.
So it's
Right.
$0 sitting there. And so for that reason, any expenditure of the reserve is just stealing value from current rune holders. And so there's very few use cases where I think that would be justified. And so for that reason, it's like, yeah, like, you know, leave a small emergency there, but like, yeah, anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah. No, that's all correct what you're saying. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I've been like I was talking like it's in theory about the price, right? Theoretically, like if you believe in the efficient market hypothesis, like in theory, the market would be applying some kind of discount to the reserve and applying that to THORChain market cap. So, um, you know, if we removed it, in theory, if we burned part of the reserve, in theory, the room price should go up. As that liability goes away, right? So like you just said it, right? Like if we issue tokens from the reserve, that's stealing value, that's inflating from the other existing token holders, right? So in theory, the market is pricing that in. I mean, it's not pricing it at 100% probability. Maybe it's pricing it in at a 30% probability. So you know, we wouldn't see the FDV might not go up, you know, dollar for dollar. The room price might not go up dollar for dollar to have the exact same FDV, but maybe it goes up, you know, a portion, right? You follow me?
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's in theory, right? And in my opinion, I think in practice, we wouldn't see the room price move at all, right? It would have zero effect on the room price.
Yeah, very good conversation, guys. I love it. We do have another speaker, Scott. Scott, you want to check your mic? What do you got for us, buddy?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Really quick. Quick opinion first, Boone. I hear what you're saying and it makes sense, but as someone who's run a few businesses, it's amazing how Murphy's Law will come up with things you never thought of that you suddenly need emergency money for, and just how much that can require instantly out of nowhere. So I get what you're saying, and no one wants to see a bunch of rune flood the market, but keeping it there just in case, yeah, I think it's a good idea, at least for now, till we grow back a little more and get a little more established. Just a thought. But I totally hear your argument on that.
The funny thing is that
Go
it doesn't really matter whether, like, when you're moving rune from the reserve into circulating supply, or you're minting rune into circulating supply, those two things are basically the equivalents, which is what I think Boone was kind of saying. So, like, if we were to burn that rune now and then mint it back later, versus keeping it where it is and then releasing it later, like, those two things are mathematical identicals to each other, to be
Well,
honest.
and Chad, mathematically, I absolutely agree with you. But a little to Kenton's point, the last thing we need is the press to get a hold of something. THORChain claims their token is deflationary, but they just minted all these. It's like, ooh, just for the time being, maybe tread water and bring it up again when our volumes are up and we're looking a little more. Things are looking a little more rosy as far as our income, and some of these things we have cooking all come to market, and I'm hoping and praying and believe that it's gonna push a lot more volume our way.
Yep.
But yeah, just those are just my thoughts. I'm just a concerned community member. I'm not a node operator or dev. But no, it's Boone. That's a wonderful point. So I have something I wanted to run by everyone. I'll go. It'll seem like I'm going a little off topic, but I'll steer it right back to THORChain. I'm a huge believer in using market data whenever possible to inform decisions. I think it's some of the best data you can use when you're running a business. And just for fun, um, I, I was concerned about the 5% income allocation to marketing. And I was poking around and I found something called the Gartner's annual CMO spend survey. This is a survey of chief marketing officers across hundreds of companies in North America and Europe. It's considered an important benchmark in the marketing space. And I was looking at the percentage of company income on average that companies are spending in these different areas. And they didn't have one specifically for crypto. And when I went online and looked at crypto, it's a little nebulous. There's no good hard data on it, that at least that I could find. But if I look for what might be a good analog, and considering we're doing things like limit orders and getting Ruggiero on top of us, I said, well, what if we looked at finance and banking? And on average, this is as a 2024, they're spending 7% of their business, the bank income on marketing. And if you'd say, oh, well, we're crypto, maybe is really more suitable to use tech as an analog. Tech is even higher. It was like 11%. And if you say, oh, well, let's forget all of those, none of them are close enough. Fair enough. They did one aggregate of what businesses were spending on average across all those countries for 2024. It was like 7.2%. So I looked at banking and I looked at that average and I said, we're burning 5% of income, and that's nice optics for us that we are deflationary, and 5% is a nice round number. If we looked at this data and said, let's use this to inform the appropriate percentage of income to spend on marketing, and changed it to 7, and did a slight optics adjustment on the burn, instead of giving a hard number, if we said, the burn rate for Rune is 2 to 5% depending on protocol need. That slight optics adjustment, 5% or 2 to 5%, probably isn't going to look that different, in my opinion. That's to your average crypto user, but that would give us some more flexibility to, instead of just destroying that money, to put it into marketing and put it up to 7%, so that at least we're using some decent market data to help inform the level we set that price at. Because my understanding was that 5% was going towards something else, and it was kind of a no-brainer, easy win. We're starting marketing, we could use this money, just hit it, go, and it was easy to get approved, which obviously is wonderful. But I'm very curious to hear what people would think about, in the community, and the devs and everyone would think about maybe adjusting that based on some market data like that. This is just a thought. I just wanted to kick it out there.
Well, Scott, apparently you weren't following me in August. So I was on a probably for about, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks straight. Every day I was posting the marketing spend from the biggest companies in the world, um, in every industry. And somewhere as low as 2% of revenue, somewhere as high as like 20% of revenue. And so your 7% average, that makes sense. That's kind of what I came up with as well. And that was part of my pitch to the nodes, to THORChain network and community, to get this going, right? To treat THORChain more like a business. We need to allocate a certain percentage of revenue to marketing. And when I presented when me and Scorch presented the ADR to the nodes in the community, the first version was to remove the burn, or reallocate the 5% burn to 5% marketing. And so the idea was to not repurpose existing money, right? Not cut into everyone's revenue, but just repurpose it, shift the 5% from the burn to marketing. And there's actually a lot of backlash. Like that was probably the main. People were actually on board. Everyone was like interested. They agreed with the marketing, but they did not agree with giving up the burn. And I was, I can kind of personally, I kind of take it or leave it. I mean, I was one of the proponents of the burn initially because I do believe it has great marketing value, and the fact that the nodes and bond providers, everybody wants to keep it, kind of proves that. So even though this is actually a really good example of like humans are irrational, they make emotional decisions, and then they justify them after the fact. So we can walk through all the logical reasons why the burn doesn't make sense. But it doesn't matter. People love it. And so I'm not criticizing the people who like it, want to keep it. Um, but there is just some kind of just gets people's reptilian brain going or whatever about the decreasing supply, and they see value in that. And so that in itself could be is a form of marketing. And another way to look at the burn is that we're spending 5% of the revenue. Like it can be better spent elsewhere, like what you're suggesting. We could have sorry, Scott, I think you got some feedback. If you don't mute your
Yeah,
mic.
yeah.
Um, so you can argue that the money would be better spent on marketing today because we're going to have a higher return on that investment today than just burning it, right? And this is the case with stock buybacks. That every company has to ask themselves or answer is that why are we buying back our shares when we could be using that money for some other purpose? And, you know, in theory, if you're running a good business, you should be able to use that money and reinvest it and keep growing your business, as opposed to buying your shares. And so, kind of generally, when you buy your shares back, you're basically saying you have nothing else to do with the money. So you may as well do something. You may as well buy back the shares as a way of like returning money back to investors because it's like an indirect dividend kind of. So I do believe that. I agree with you. I think we could spend that 5%, put it all into pay per click or something like that, and probably have a much better return than burning it. Um, that being said, I think where we're at is a good spot because at least like I'm all talk right now, right? I got to deliver it to you guys, right? So let us actually deliver something to you guys. Let's start seeing some results, right? I'm being honest. I have to be honest with this as well, right? And so let me actually deliver. Let's see how it's going. Let's see how the money is being spent. Is this money actually being spent well? Are we actually seeing a return on it? Can we actually measure it somehow? And if so, then we can maybe start making the argument where we should spend more money on marketing. And then we can say, well, where is that money going to come from? And then we can maybe put on the table to reduce the burn or something like that. But for now, that has value. The community sees value. They like it, and that's in theory. Whether you agree with it or not, I mean, it's marketing. It's what's keeping people invested. Like I had people message me saying, if we get rid of the burn, they're going to sell Rune. That's the burn is one of the things that kept them invested. And you can maybe make like a perfectly logical, rational case why that doesn't make sense, but to that person it does, and that's what matters. So the burn can be viewed as a form of marketing and as a marketing expense in and of itself. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Kent. And I apologize. This August was pretty rocky for me, so I wasn't tuning in regularly. But yeah, of course you did your diligence. I just wanted to throw it out there again as we could have both. We could still have a burn, but just within a range and have a little more market data appropriate allocation to marketing. But if people dig in their heels and don't even want to see the 5% adjusted, then give the customers what they want. But thank you for talking that through with me, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Scott, for coming up. You always have really great questions, and for you don't have a lot of followers but you are a dope guy. I met you in real life once in Las Vegas. You're a very smart man, so always feel free to come up here. You are an excellent community member. Do we have anything else, chat? I mean, I don't have any more questions. Do you want anything to say for the last Thursday of 2025, Chad. Do you have anything you're burning to say or anything we've made missed or you want to cover again or anything like that?
No, not really. I think it's just like kind of a chill end of the year moment. Things are kind of like ramping down as people are kind of spending time with loved ones and family during this holiday season and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think anything burning up on my side, but I do look forward to 2026. There's like lots of things like on the roadmap. 315 is coming out in January, mid-January, and I think Solana will be launching in that time frame as well. So there's lots of things to be looking forward to. But 2026 was an interesting year to say the least.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, to say
2025
the
rather.
least, indeed. Yeah, no, I know what you meant. Yeah, 100%, bro. It's been a wild year,
Yeah.
but man, I feel good now that we're at the end of it. I think we've done well considering. We'll do a call out to the audience, guys. If anyone has any questions, want to come up and say anything, this is the last Thursday for 25. Again, we're probably going to be 2-week break after this, so 3 weeks wait, I would say, something like that. Maybe longer, I don't know, just depends. So please, this is your time. And again, great. This has been a great space. Kenton, did you have anything you wanted to say by chance?
No, no, it's good. Yeah, don't feel bad not following me there, Scott. I'm glad you have a life. You're not on Twitter all the time. I'm jealous of you. Uh,
That's one of us.
no, I'm still thinking. Sorry, guys, I'm still staring at the CoinGecko and Market Cap, this max supply. So do you think if we change it to the total supply, that wouldn't be? I'm just worried about maybe if it comes across wrong, if it's not like technically actually correct in the code, that we got to stick with what it says in the code, or am I overthinking it?
I mean, even the max supply within the code is actually not in the code. I think it's a Mimir in the end. My memory serves me correctly. So technically, you could just do a node vote, and it would bring it down to 425 or whatever. Whether we want to like
Okay.
thrash nodes with this kind of voting, that's a different question.
Yeah, because I know there's an API to the total supply, so I can just update CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap to that, and should be fine, right? I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I agree. Boone, I think Boone would agree with you. I'm not sure if he's still on the stage or not, but I think Boone would probably agree with you with that mentality because it's just that rune that's there is like. I mean, technically, it is there. There's rune goes in and out of that module. Every block. It's just very small numbers.
Yeah, and just to throw one other another reason I've thought it was a good idea to burn the reserve is just like this conversation just happens over and over and over again, and like people see that money and it's like, oh, we should do this with that or we should do that with that, and just I don't know. I think it just like burns a lot of like talk sometimes, and I think a lot of people don't see that as like they think of it as $40 million sitting there, and they don't realize
Yeah.
that's just $40 million of rune holders value.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
not actually money there.
Right.
So you're actually thinking, so to support your case, Boone, it'd be like it's just burning a hole in people's pockets. Like they see that money, they want to spend it, and no longer it
Yep.
sits there.
That's it. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, so to counter me, if we treat with THORChain more like a stock, say, like they issue shares all the time. If there's some creative acquisition or whatever, they'll issue new shares, right? So maybe it isn't so bad that the the outstanding rune supply does go up or down, right? Maybe I'm exaggerating the effects. Stocks do that all the time. So
And
yeah.
I would you kind of touched on this earlier, but like I think there's a lot of confusion because Rune is a crypto token and we're in the crypto space that people want like you touched on this that like people want Rune to be like Bitcoin, but like to me that just doesn't make sense. Like Thorchain is a business and Rune I have long argued is best thought of as like, stock in that business, just like you're saying. And you don't I don't think it like to try to apply like crypto like Bitcoin type store of value or scarce asset kind of things to a business is just not, I don't know. And like we were kind of talking earlier on the space, how like, oh, changing the tokenomics, that's not the point, because the tokenomics are fine. THORChain will sink or swim based on the revenue it collects. Like that's the only thing that really matters. Like the tokenomics is just rearranging chairs on the ship. It doesn't change what's actually going on. And so
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fair point. You're right. And like, I think it is important that people understand the difference between Bitcoin and THORChain. And as they begin to understand that, especially investors and sophisticated investors, they'll be smart enough to understand the Rune token supply and tokenomics, and whether it makes sense for the token supply to increase or decrease. They'll be able to absorb that. Yeah, you're right.
Aftershock. Oh, aftermath. What do you got for us? Got your hand raised.
Yes, I do. GM. I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody, and a reminder to our devs and our node operators, you're invaluable. Couldn't possibly thank you enough. However we can help fortify you, I believe you have an army behind you. So safeguard yourselves. Let's go onwards to Valhalla.
Love it.
LFG.
Yeah, that LFG. And thank you for saying that, Aftermath. That's awesome. And yeah, guys, time to reflect. Enjoy your families. I enjoy you, all of you. I see a lot of Matt in the audience. He was on a space with me just before this space. Eric, think wisely. I know some people I've never seen on the stage, but you're always here, like Jamar. I'm sorry if you're saying your name wrong, but I see you all the time. I'm so happy you're here. Cedric, Mocha, The Last Degenerate. That's such an awesome name. And of course, PFC with that banger question, which I am no longer embarrassed because Kenton nor Chad do the answer off the top of their head. That was awesome. Thormax with the Coke, Seasick Viking, D Solid, another node operator, Max Power, Kararwa. Sorry if I said that name. I probably did that. Vaultstone Advisory. I don't know who you are, but welcome. Amir. Hi, guys. Just shout out to everyone. Aurora, everyone in the audience. It's so glad to have you guys here. Thank you all so very much for consistently showing up and reposting the space and sharing this content and being an active contributor. And of course, all the speakers who are up here, Scott, Boone, Cal, you guys are always doing a great job. So thank you so much. I do not have any more questions, you guys, from the community. So I'm wondering if now is the time to wrap the last 2025 Thor's Day space. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so.
shout out to our wonderful hosts. Thank you guys for holding it down every week.
Yeah, you guys do a great job.
Well, thanks, guys. And thank you, the TC intern, as well, for being the one to be the primary host. Appreciate you. You're always working hard. You guys have been releasing some banger content, by the way. I'm so excited to see what we do with the interface as well, and the main THORChain site, getting all the articles and all the resources condensed on one location. Kenton, you are doing, you know what? I should share it to my co-host. Thank you, Kenton, for just being always awesome, hardworking, solid guys. I chat with Kenton and DMs a lot. The guy is constantly grinding. He has no quit in him. So thank you, buddy, very much. And I hope once this resolves, I know we're going to talk Saturday, but man, I just hope you have a great rest of your year. And I am so looking forward to doing this next year. I'm feeling good. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling amazing right now.
Yeah, man. And as hosts, we're only as good as our guests and audience. So, thanks to you guys. And yeah, looking forward to picking these up in the new year.
Love it, guys.
All right,
Chad,
guys. Talk to you soon.
you. Hey, thank you, buddy, so much. I always appreciate you. Enjoy. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you.
You too, bud. Love you guys.
All right, guys. So you have something, Kenton, before I close it down?
Just trying to say goodbye. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saturday, guys. Don't miss the Ruggiera space. Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Love you to death. It's going to be awesome. There may or may not be some alpha on the Ruggiera space. If there is no alpha, you must blame Pragmatic Monkey, not me, because that is the rumor that's been flying around. I don't know anything about that, but I hope there is. So you guys have a good rest of your week. Will you see you Saturday? Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.